in the squadron. They called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Well, I'll say it again. I'm satisfied. This is a good deal. I know they're going to hammer out the points. Oh, can you believe what they're demanding? Yeah, I can. They're going to demand everything. All right. This is a negotiation. President Trump wrote Art of the Deal. This is really where pre-presidential talent, the talent that he accumulated over a lifetime, we are benefiting from. The world is benefiting from. You think George W. Bush knew anything about anything? You think most presidents know anything about anything? No, they know about becoming popular for one moment in November, right? They know how to navigate the Iowa caucuses, right? Beyond that, they have no skill. They're dimwits. They're shallow, empty-headed. Okay, all of them, literally all of them. No one has brought genuine world-class talent to the presidency of the United States in 100 years. Well, there are three, arguably three. 20 presidents, arguably 3 or 4 had world-class talent, right? That could be harnessed, that could be utilized for the good of the American people. Everybody else was selfish and out for themselves. All right? Who do you think the first one is? It's not Trump. I'll get to Trump. Trump is one of them, but who do you think the first one is? Eisenhower. Dwight David Eisenhower. World-class skill. Logistics, tactics, strategy, military, national security. This man was rewarded, all right, rewarded and kind of utilized to the greatest possible measure based on merit. He didn't have to campaign to get into that job. He didn't have to ask friends for money so they can make nice TV commercials and make up brochures and I can go around telling everybody what a nice guy I am. He just rose to the top. He just got there on ability. Nobody cared. Nobody cared if his wife was hot or not. Nobody cared if he was from the wrong side of the tracks or the right side of the tracks. Nobody cared. He could do the job. Who's the next one? It's not Kennedy. It's actually not even Nixon, although I like Nixon a lot and he had talent. It's not him. It's Lyndon Johnson. Lyndon Johnson had many, many, many flaws, but I'll tell you this. By the time 1960 rolled around in 1964, he had world-class, like top-tier elite status as a legislator, right? Nobody could make that Senate work like he could. And you could say, what difference does that make? Well, it makes a hell of a lot of difference. John Thune, you think he knows how to operate power? He's a pretty boy who got lucky. He doesn't know anything. But this Johnson was world-class and everybody knew it. They write biographies about Lyndon Johnson that have nothing to do with the presidency. It takes like 6 volumes. That guy, Robert Caro, I don't think he's even gotten to when he's like in 1958. He's written 6 books about LBJ, and most of them are about all the stuff he did in the Senate. It's incredible. All right. Now I'm going to cut somebody some slack here because he's a good egg. Nobody else brought world-class talent to the presidency. What the hell was it so good about Jimmy Carter? Was he the best peanut farmer? No. Was he the best submarine officer? No. Was he the best governor? No. It was all messaging and narrative and crap. Now, Ronald Reagan's a little bit different. He wasn't the best actor. He wasn't the best sportscaster. He was arguably one of the best communicators if you fused it all together, right? When he spoke about conservative values, starting in that 1964, the GE speech and running for governor of California, the man, sometimes people speak and you're left with an impression, if you're really listening, if it's a politician, it's very rare to have what I'm about to say. It's easy to say something, oh boy, that guy's smart. Wow, that guy's smart. That guy's really, really smart. That's impressive. And a lot of politicians can pull that off. But a politician who speaks and you say, wow, that guy speaks to me. Wow, that guy has a point. That guy's right. That doesn't happen very often. And it happened with President Reagan basically every time he opened his mouth. That was world-class talent. The great communicator. It was truly great. And it was honed over a lifetime. You know, there were better actors, but would any of those actors have been a better president? I mean, William Holden, when it came to acting, and they were friends, could run circles around Ronald Reagan. And then you're going to have to hold your breath until somebody with world-class talent shows up, and that's Trump. It certainly wasn't H.W. Bush, right? Country club, martinis, golf courses, right? Golf courses that he played on, that he didn't design or build or employ people. Clinton, oh boy, I can't believe it. I get my own plane. I'm just from Hope, Arkansas. I don't know what's going on. Wow. Actually, he wasn't from Hope, Arkansas. That's a big fallacy right there. He was from Hot Springs. Hot Springs was a gym in town. You could have fun in a place like Hot Springs. Hot Springs. He wasn't this innocent country boy. Who came next? George W. Bush. What an embarrassment that was. Was he world class anything? No, he was a Nepo. What do they call it? Nepo baby. He was nepotism. And thanks a lot, George. He had all these crazy hang-ups about the old man. You know, I'm going to outdo my dad. His father outdid George W. Bush every day of his life, right? And W, according to numerous biographies, resented the hell out of it. Oh, yeah, everybody loves you, the war hero. Yeah, I'm going to fight you. We're going to go mano a mano. It's a famous story. He got all drunk and challenged his dad to a fight when he got home. I'm going to fight you. Just like, I mean, these are the people? These people? And then Obama rolls into town. What the hell did he bring to the table? What did he bring to the table? Autobiography? Navel gazing? Narcissism? Self-obsession? How can you be 35 years old and write 6 books about yourself? He's got 6 books all about Barack Obama. You're not that interesting. You're not that interesting unless you want to tell us the truth. Something tells me the truth is actually interesting. I mean, at this point, it is a great big question mark as to who that guy's father really is. All right? Barack Obama Sr., maybe. Or is it Toro Notaro? This guy from, I think he's from like Malaysia or someplace like that, Indonesia, and total socialist. And it looks like the timing kind of matches more him than Barack Obama Sr. Whatever. Talk about a deadbeat dad, right? He writes all these books about his father, right? And the father shows up like once when he's 11 years old. Once. Who does that? Who does that and does not condemn the old man for being a jerk? That gets Gavin Newsom, by the way. The dad is the best guy in the world. The same dad who walks out on the mother and his sister and Gavin when he's like 5 months old. He just walks out. I need a change of scenery. And he leaves for the next 80 years. He's gone. And Gavin thinks he's swell. What does it say about these guys? So that brings us to Donald Trump. Now, what did he bring to the table, for crying out loud? You know, for all of the helter-skelter talk about President Trump not being traditional or not being, oh, my God, this is so crazy, a talk show host. What is he doing? A reality show host as president? No, they don't know what they're talking about. In fact, President Trump is very much in keeping with traditional presidents. And by traditional presidents, I mean men of accomplishment, kind of skipping most of the 20th century. Men of vast accomplishment, of national fame for decades before they're considered eligible for the presidency. Now, President Trump had all that stuff. They were talking about him being president before he was even eligible to be president. And the man was, and this is a hard thing to do, building buildings. Being a governor of a state, you're filling a slot. It's a job. I mean, there's an opening, and you go and they get somebody to do it. And you administer certain state programs, state parks, state utilities, transportation thing, and you don't have complete, total dominance or, control over those things. So you're kind of along for the ride. Governor makes it sound very, very august. It sounds like you're Julius Caesar. I am the governor. If they called it what it really was, assistant administrator for the executive branch, I don't think anybody would want the job. Assistant administrator, that sucks. I want to be a governor. It goes to their heads. And you get a mansion with it, like it's colonial. Anyway, so President Trump was building buildings before he was 30. You look at what he pulled off with that hotel, the Commodore Hotel on 42nd Street. People poo-poo this. They minimize it. That thing exists. You can reach out and touch it. Show me anything that Joe Biden or any of these guys did that you could actually touch. What they'll brag about is, oh, I got the funding for that. I arranged for the funding for that thing. Yeah. So you get reelected. That's what all you guys do, is just run around trying to get money home. And that is pretty bad, actually, for the country. Nobody can think broadly or kind of holistically about the country as a whole. And President Trump has been doing that publicly, quite frankly, since 1980. Listen to these worrywarts. Senator Chris Murphy, who's within, I think he's Connecticut, right? He's still in there. They talk about him running for president. Cut 10, please. Cut 10. Yes, Kyle.
I mean, listen, who knows what's going on? Donald Trump lies every single day. Clearly, he's not telling the truth. But if you accept even part of the Iranian statement, Donald Trump has agreed to give Iran control of the Strait of Hormuz. That is extraordinary. If you go deeper into the statement from the Iranian National Security Council, they claim that Trump has also agreed to Iran's right to enrichment, to suspend all sanctions against Iran, and to allow Iran to keep their missile program, their drone program, and their nuclear program. Now,
so he's going off of fake news. And some of his assumptions right there, I mean, number one, I went through this a long time ago. I discovered this in 2011, that President Trump is the most truthful human being in the United States of America and possibly the world. If you see beyond all the stuff, and yes, there is such a thing as truthful hyperbole. But what was I getting at there? The Strait of Hormuz. Strait of Hormuz has never been, or hasn't been for decades, an international waterway. It's actually co-owned by Oman and Iran. There's no space for international waters. This has been something we've dealt with for a long time. The objective of the war was, quite frankly, I never heard anything about the Strait of Hormuz. And a lot of why they're not going through the Strait of Hormuz is the insurance companies. It's almost like a paperwork thing. The moment this thing stops, and it has, ships will start going through it. And that's fine. If you want to own it, you want to say you own it, great. What difference does it make? It doesn't. It doesn't. And all that stuff, again, he doesn't have to sign on the bottom line. He's not responsible. But like I said, you got to worry about your enemy's reputation. Sounds a little bit crazy, but it's part of the equation. Hey, do me a favor if you don't mind. Todd Blanche is the new Attorney General, and he's awesome. We're waiting for the press conference from the Caroline Leavitt. A lot to say today. Todd Blanche, the new Attorney General, acting at least. Cut 11.
My question is this. A number of military and legal scholars have raised questions about bombing a nation's, all of its bridges, all of its energy structure as possible war crimes. What is DOJ's analysis of that position, and could you give us a sense of what you're advising the White House?
We support the Department of Justice, as it always does, supports the Department of War, the White House, Department of State, to the extent that's involved, and our intelligence communities to the extent that that's something that's appropriate. And we provide counsel to them, and we have been doing that as you would expect.
I like this guy. I liked him so much. And he's not afraid of actually getting accountability for all of those horrible prosecutions of President Trump, and they have the duty. They have the duty to do it. Todd Blanche is living up to the moment. I hope he gets the job full time. We'll be right back.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. I'm waiting for Caroline Levitt to take position at the podium. It'll be a moment. Francis, what do you have to say? What is it?
Oh, you know what? I'm working on something here.
Okay, now you're on the telephone to the radio station. So
I know.
What is your point?
Distracted. All right, I've been listening to some of the comments you've been making about Kristi Noem's husband with the problems.
Yeah.
And I want to know, do you like to wear women's clothes?
Do I like to wear women's clothes? No. But I did once experiment with a pair of pantyhose in 1982. All right?
Yeah?
Yeah. So, anything else?
I know people that like to wear pantyhose.
Yeah. Anyway, Francis, what are you into? You got a sex life going? Something tells me no. Sorry.
I know what's
what's going on? You know what's going on? All right. I'm sorry. Hey, whatever you do, you do. All right. Yeah. So you think I was too sympathetic to a private citizen who does private things with consenting adults? You think that's too? You think that's I'm too easy on him? You know? Oh, and that's the thing right there. Oh, you think that's you're giving him you're being kind to him. Maybe you're the pervert. You know, it's stupid. That's classic witch hunt stuff. All right, Francis. For whatever reason, I still like you. Let's go back to the White House, actually, right now. Caroline Levitt speaking.
Of America's war fighters, the United States has achieved and exceeded those core military objectives in just 38 days. The U.S. military destroyed Iran's defense industrial base, crushing the regime's ability to manufacture weapons that they and their proxies use to maim and kill Americans and terrorize the world. Iran's ability to build and stockpile ballistic missiles and long-range drones has also been set back by years compared to where it was 6 weeks ago prior to the launch of Operation Epic Fury. We destroyed the vast majority of Iran's ballistic missiles, launcher vehicles, and long-range attack drones through more than 450 strikes on ballistic missiles and approximately 800 strikes on Iran's drone launching units and storage facilities. In total, more than 13,000
This is one of those
targets
occasions where
across Iran
she's
were
not
struck.
going to get ahead of the president, all right? Could get interesting when the questions start. That's going to be a few more minutes. We'll be right back for that, I promise.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And back to the White House, where the questions have just begun.
President Trump has a proven track record of achieving good deals on behalf of the United States and the American people, and he will only accept one that puts America first. With that, I will take your questions today. I'm sure you have a lot of them. In our new media seat, we have Shane Harris with the AMAC Newsline. Shane, thank you for being here. Why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Caroline. Two questions for you. First, following the president's announcement of the ceasefire, if this is indeed the end of hostilities in Iran, what is the president's message to the American people about what was achieved for our country through Operation Epic Fury?
Sure. I think I just laid out a significant portion of that in my opening remarks. 6 weeks ago, the president looked the American people in the eye directly, and he told them that he launched this operation to take out the imminent threat that was posed by Iran. And that threat has now been greatly destroyed. Their Navy, their missiles, their defense industrial base, and their desire and their plan to build a nuclear bomb inside their country is no longer going to be allowed, can no longer happen, thanks to the remarkable success of Operation Epic Fury over the course of the last 38 days. That has been absolutely achieved, and now we're moving into the next phase of this, which is a negotiating period to put some fine points on this and to hopefully broker an agreement that can achieve long-term peace in the Middle East.
Yeah, and then second, what is the president's message to American seniors who have a much higher voter participation rate and they're likely to be a key swing vote in the midterm elections?
Well, the president loves our seniors across the country. And as you know, the president signed the One Big Beautiful Bill, the Working Families Tax Cut last year. which greatly reduced taxes on Social Security for our seniors. In fact, thanks to the Working Families Tax Cut, nearly 90% of seniors will no longer pay tax on their Social Security. That's a huge win for our seniors and also for our middle class and working families across the country with the no tax on tips provision and the no tax on overtime. Next week is tax week. You'll hear a lot from the president about how his policies have benefited the American people, and I'm proud to report that the president will be traveling next week to the great states of Nevada and Arizona to tout this historic accomplishment over the course of the next week. Thank you for being here, Shane. Gabe.
Thank you, Caroline. Iranian state media is saying that Iran has now closed off the Strait of Hormuz today in response to Israeli attacks on Lebanon. What's the White House response to that? And you just listed many military successes. I understand that. But strategically, how is the administration arguing that Iran does not have more economic leverage than it did before the start of the war?
Sure. Well, with respect to the first reporting out of Iranian state media, the president was made aware of those reports before I came to the podium. That is completely unacceptable. And again, this is a case of what they're saying publicly is different privately. We have seen an uptick of traffic in the Strait today, and I will reiterate the president's expectation and demand that the Strait of Hormuz is reopened immediately, quickly, and safely. That is his expectation. It has been relayed to him privately that is what's taking place, and these reports publicly are false.
Caroline, the president yesterday threatened that a whole civilization would die if a ceasefire deal wasn't reached, understanding that Iranian leaders have previously said death to America. But why is it appropriate for the president of the United States to use that kind of language when talking about civilian targets? And was the president mocking Islam by signing off his Truth Social post over the weekend, praise be to Allah? Wouldn't that antagonize Muslim allies across the world?
Well, I understand the questions about the president's rhetoric, but what the president cares most about is results. And in fact, his very tough rhetoric and his tough negotiating style is what has led to the result that you are all witnessing today. Iran publicly acknowledging last night that they have agreed or that they wanted this ceasefire with the United States because they no longer could tolerate being bombed by our very powerful and lethal military, and that they have committed to the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, which the president will hold them accountable for, and it's something the administration is closely monitoring in real time.
So,
Danny.
Should the world not take his word seriously?
The world should take his word very seriously in understanding that the president is always most interested in results. And it was the Iranians who backed down, not President Trump. He said that they would face very grave consequences, as you just laid out, by the 8 p.m. deadline if they did not agree to reopening the Strait of Hormuz. And what did they do last night? They agreed to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Danny.
Thanks, Caroline. Would President Trump like to see Lebanon included in this peace deal? Because as you know, there have been increased Israeli strikes on Lebanon today with dozens of casualties there.
Sure. Lebanon is not part of the ceasefire. That has been relayed to all parties involved in the ceasefire. As you know, Prime Minister Netanyahu put out a statement last night in support of the ceasefire, in support of the United States' efforts, and he's also assured the president they'll continue to be a helpful partner throughout the course of the next 2 weeks.
Is there any thought, though, that the president might like to see Lebanon included at a future date, given that it seems to be causing or potentially undermining the Iran ceasefire?
Again, this will continue to be discussed, I am sure, between the President and Prime Minister Netanyahu, the United States, and Israel, and all of the parties involved. But at this point in time, they're not included in the ceasefire deal. Jeff.
Thank you. Caroline, will the U.S. take part in talks with Iran in Islamabad on Friday?
I can announce that the president is dispatching his negotiating team, led by the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, Special Envoy Witkoff, and Mr. Kushner to Islamabad for talks this weekend. The first round of those talks will take place on Saturday morning local time, and we look forward to those in-person meetings.
Now, what role does the president see for the U.S. in monitoring or helping with the Strait of Hormuz going forward?
I think the president commented on that this morning. We're going to continue to monitor it very, very closely. We will be helpful in any way that we can, but we fully expect Iran to do this, and the president has made that quite clear as well. It's, again, as his statement said last night, this ceasefire is subject to the safe reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. Again, this was just determined last night. We understand things take time, but that's the president's expectation, and he will hold everyone to it. Sure, in the green blazer.
Thank you, Caroline.
Sure, and then in front of you. But Andrew, you can go ahead.
All right.
You're not wearing a green blazer. You can...
I am actually wearing a green blazer.
It looks a little brown to me, but go ahead.
Fair enough. So
Regarding the president's rhetoric, when the U.S. invaded Iraq in 2003, George W. Bush said in a message to the Iraqi people that the military campaign was directed, quote, against the lawless men who rule your country and not against you. Yesterday, the president threatened to destroy Iran's civilization, the entire civilization. Not the Iranian government, but the Iranian civilization, the Iranian people. The U.S. has been a moral leader for most of its history by fighting wars against other governments, not against civilizations. How can the president claim that America can ever have the moral high ground if he's threatening to destroy civilizations and not casting wars as fights against other governments?
Andrew, I think you should take a look at the actions of this president over the course of the past 6 weeks and the actions of our brave men and women in our United States military who have taken out essentially taken out the military of a rogue Islamic regime that has chanted death to America for 47 years, that has killed and maimed thousands of American soldiers over the course of the last 5 decades. The president absolutely has the moral high ground over the Iranian terrorist regime, and for you to even suggest otherwise is frankly insulting.
With all due respect, Caroline,
Go ahead.
with all due respect,
Go ahead.
There is
just given what we've seen in Lebanon today and the increased attacks from Israel. I mean, is there any concern that Netanyahu is trying to kill the ceasefire?
The president spoke with Prime Minister Netanyahu last night. And in that private conversation, Prime Minister Netanyahu relayed exactly what he said to the world publicly, that he supports the president and Israel remains a key ally and partner to the United States. They've been a tremendous partner over the course of the past 6 weeks, and we thank them for their heroic efforts as well. And the president had that conversation last night, and that was relayed to the world publicly as well. Reagan, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. I have a question for you on Iran, and I have a question on the Dignity Act as well. On Iran, it's been reported that the ceasefire was struck after the involvement of 2 unlikely factors, J.D. Vance and China. What role did those parties play in striking a deal?
Well, Vice President Vance has played a very significant and a key role in this since the very beginning. Of course, he's the president's right-hand man. He is the vice president of the United States. He's been involved in all of these discussions, and as I just announced, he'll be leading this new phase of negotiations in Islamabad later this week. With respect to China, there were conversations that took place between top levels of our government and China's government. The president has great respect for President Xi and a great working relationship with him and with that country, and he looks forward to visiting China in just a few weeks.
And on the Dignity Act, it's getting a fresh push through Congress. It would give some illegal immigrants in the country a path to citizenship. What's the White House's position on this legislation, and would the president sign it if it made it to his desk?
Honestly, Reagan, I haven't spoken to the president about the legislation, but I will have that conversation, and we'll get you our formal position on it as soon as we can. You're welcome. Go ahead.
The president suggested in an interview this morning that he would support a joint U.S.-Iran venture to charge tolls for ships going through the strait. Does the president believe that the U.S. should earn revenue from the Strait of Hormuz going forward?
It's an idea the president has floated, as you know, and it's something that will continue to be discussed over the course of the next 2 weeks. But the immediate priority of the president is the reopening of the strait without any limitations, whether in the form of tolls or otherwise.
And on the highly enriched uranium, has Iran given the administration any indication that it would simply turn over the enriched uranium, or is this an expectation that the president has that he would have to send in ground troops in order to do that?
This is on the top of the priority list for the president and his negotiating team as they head into this next round of discussions. And as I said in my opener, that is a red line that the president is not going to back away from, and he's committed to ensuring that takes place. We hope it will be through diplomacy.
But have they given any indication that they would turn it over?
They have.
They have?
Yes. Trevor.
The latest news out of Iran is that the air defenses have been activated in several cities, including Isfahan, and that explosions have been heard in Isfahan. Who is bombing Iran right now?
Were those reports just as of a few minutes ago?
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously I'll have to go back and check with the national security team. I'm standing out here with all of you, but I will do that and we will get you an answer, okay?
And just on the civilization question that we've been talking about.
And I would just add to that point, again, I haven't seen these reports reports. I'm not verifying them. Not that I don't trust you, Trevor, but I want to go back and check with the experts here at the White House. I would just say, and I would echo what the Vice President said this morning, this is a fragile truce. Ceasefires are fragile by nature. We've seen this with respect to the 12-day war with Iran and Israel last year. It takes time sometimes for these ceasefires to be fully effectuated. And one of the results of Operation Epic Fury was we completely dismantled Iran's command and control center, which makes it difficult for them to pass messages up and down the chain. And so we understand that. I would caution a little bit of patience, but of course we want to see the ceasefire effectuated and abided by all parties as quickly as possible.
Thank you. And the American presidential administrations, going back to Ronald Reagan, have said this formulation about nuclear war, that a nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought. Is that still the view of this administration, given the president's comments about civilization?
I have no change in our view on that policy. Katie.
Thanks, Caroline. I'm just, given the gravity of what he said yesterday, what was your understanding of what he meant when he said, this civilization is going to be eliminated?
I think it was a very, very strong threat from the President of the United States that led the Iranian regime to cave to their knees and ask for a ceasefire and agree to reopening the Strait of Hormuz. So it was a very strong threat that led to results. And as the Secretary of War stated at the Pentagon this morning, it was not an empty threat by any means. The Pentagon had a target list that they were ready to hit go on at 8 p.m. last night if the Iranian regime had not agreed to open the strait, which they did. And I think that's something we should all be grateful for.
The United States is a moral leader in the world, given that
I was asked this exact same question by your colleague Andrew in the back, and I think, again, the insinuation by anyone in this room that Iran somehow has the moral high ground over the United States of America is insulting, considering the atrocities that they have committed against our people and our military over the past 5 decades. John, go ahead.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. 2 questions for you. One has to do with a joint statement put out this morning by some of America's European allies, our NATO allies. And in that joint statement, they said regarding the Strait of Hormuz, our governments will contribute to ensuring freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. What's the administration's reaction to that joint statement? Does that smooth things over when the president meets with NATO Secretary General a little bit later this afternoon?
I have a direct quote from the President of the United States on NATO, and I will share it with all of you. They were tested, and they failed. And I would add, it's quite sad that NATO turned their backs on the American people over the course of the last 6 weeks when it's the American people who have been funding their defense. As you know, President Trump will be meeting with Secretary Ruta in a couple of hours here at the White House, and I know he looks forward to having a very frank and candid conversation with him.
And then secondly, in regards to this conflict, 38 days, as you pointed out, President Trump has said that there's been regime change. Has that regime change led to more freedoms for the Iranian people?
I think that's a question that's being asked a little bit too early, John, and we hope that is the case, but it's something that has yet to be seen. Eamon.
Caroline, on this question of tolling by the Iranians in the Strait of Hormuz, I've heard you talk about a number of red lines that the president has in this negotiation, but I haven't heard you say that Iranian tolling in the Strait of Hormuz is a red line. Would it be acceptable to the United States at the end of all this if the Iranians are able to charge tolls in the Strait of Hormuz?
I think the president was very clear and simplistic in his language last night in his Truth Social post, where he said that this ceasefire is subject to the free, safe, and immediate reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. That's very plain language, and it should be taken at face value.
You mean free to charge?
Carrie, go ahead. Without limitation, including tolls, yes. Carrie.
This is important, folks. This is important. This is history. I think she got a little bit carried away about it. It's a legitimate question, but there's a legitimate answer. It's a legitimate answer. Civilization. Take a look at the target list. All right? You guys tried to say it was a matter of a war crime, destroying a bridge or a power plant. I mean, make up your minds, all right? Excellent, Caroline Levitt. To be continued. We'll be right back.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I don't believe it. You got to be kidding me. We're going to let Iran charge tolls in the Strait of Hormuz? Hey, for all I know, they've been charging tolls there forever. I don't know. I don't care. I just absolutely have no. I mean, those big, gigantic ships, they pay more tolls than you realize. I think it costs something like $1 million to go through the Panama Canal. And you can look it up. I mean, it makes sense, right? I heard that about 3 months ago. Maybe it's a $500,000. There's a big toll. This is part of commerce. This is part of maritime stuff. Let them figure it out. I don't care. I don't care if they can toll. There are other places where you pay tolls. I know that. When an airplane lands at an airport, you know what there is? A landing fee. It's a landing fee. I couldn't believe it. There's a landing fee. I mean, back when I was learning how to fly, Republic Airport on Long Island charged me $2.50 every time I came in for a landing. And if you're doing a lot of touch and goes, you know what I mean? Landing and taking off. Yeah, I got like a $20 bill on top of the flying and the fuel. I wonder what that is now. So I'm not, there's this fake outrage. What if I told you that there already was there could actually have been a toll at one point. If there's going to be a toll again, what do I care? What do you care? Well, that's gas prices. No, it's not. All right. These chips are expensive. They got all kinds of little deals they got to worry about and factor in, and it doesn't matter. The big picture is peace. I do think she's got to come up with a better answer, right? A little bit of a better answer on that civilization quote. 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. Thanks for nothing, NATO. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization. I was over there once in Brussels. That's where it's headquartered. And all these guys and women, they're dashing in and out of the headquarters. These Europeans, I tell you what, they really do know how to dress. They're a very stylish people. But they have no guts. Too often they have no guts. Yes, who's this? Lee, somebody in Austin, Texas? Hello.
It is, Greg. Thank you very much for taking my call.
Of course.
I have a question. It seems to me that this ghost murmur technology, it would be perfect to find Savannah Guthrie's mother.
You mean the heartbeat? The heartbeat detector?
Right. She has a pacemaker. We know that.
Huh. Well, you're talking about John Ratcliffe, I think, announced that the technology we use to find the downed pilot. And I bet you're right. There's probably law enforcement uses for this technology. Now, keep in mind, we had a few other advantages. We knew the guy was alive, and we knew generally where he was. We knew where the plane had been shot down. It's also a remote area. It's also, so there aren't many other human beings. Nancy Guthrie went missing in Tucson, Arizona, which is actually pretty populated, But that's a wonderful suggestion, actually. And I bet that technology would be great for law enforcement as well. This amazing thing that was able to detect a heartbeat from miles and miles and miles away. I was actually a little bit surprised they told us about it. Lou, great idea. I need to learn more about that technology. And I know a few people in law enforcement who might be interested in buying that technology. So helpful, Lou, so thoughtful. To be continued, be right back.
Thanks for listening to The Greg Kelly Show. You can hear The Greg Kelly Show weekdays at 12:15 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder,
what the heck is going on here?